Okay, with great power comes great responsibility. But then with great fanfare gets great clickbait. But if great clickbait gets great fanfare, then why didn't my Big Bang Theory video get any clicks?
Because nobody likes the Big Bang Theory.
So I know this video is a little bit late, but a wizard is never late!
He arrives precisely when he means to.
Which applies to me for mystery reasons. Anyway, I went to see No Way Home and loved it for both story and nostalgia reasons and wanted to do a video talking about it. But seeing how it was the finale of a trilogy, I thought why not do a video talking about the entire trilogy? Also because there's no way for me to legally get clips from No Way Home yet. Anyway, this Spider-Man trilogy was like a finely drawn warhorse, motivated, passionately drawn on a warm summer's day. At the end. Don't get me wrong, the beginning was fun, but when you're standing on the shoulders of giants, it's kind of hard not to compare the pair. Homecoming was fun, Far From Home was good, but No Way Home was extremely excellent and I liked it. But seeing as it was the finale of a trilogy, now is a fantastic time to go back through and look at the trilogy as a whole, look at its themes and its messaging, which in case you were curious was, with great power...
Don't dare finish that sentence. Don't do it. I'm sick of it.
So, Homecoming is mainly focused on outward responsibility or our responsibility to others. Just like the classic artistic piece of cinema, Rugrats the movie. All the characters are motivated by either a responsibility to somebody else, or their main lesson is their responsibilities to other people. This makes for an interesting dissection of a key Spider-Man theme we actually hadn't seen the legs of before, except for in Spider-Man 2. And maybe others. Vulture feels a responsibility to his workers and his family, being a provider/protector of them. He doesn't necessarily want to commit crime, but it's more rather a byproduct of his need to take care of his family. Tony feels a commitment to Peter, wanting to be a better parental figure than his own father, whilst also holding the responsibility that he was the person who put Peter in the suit, meaning whatever happens to him,
I feel like that's on me.
Happy is focusing on his responsibility to Tony, and Peter just wants more responsibilities. Well, actually, he wants more opportunity. He just doesn't realize that responsibility goes in hand with that. Through a series of mishaps, some more explosive than others, he essentially learns that his actions have consequences. And by only fixating on one area of his life, he's essentially failed in his responsibilities to others. Just like Tommy. Anyway, just to sum it up with a nice little bow on top, this movie's entirely about outward responsibilities. Far From Home, on the other hand, is all about personal responsibility and how none of the villains want to take any of it. This wasn't Tony's fault, this wasn't Tony's fault, and this was kind of Tony's fault, but I mean, we all saw Iron Man 2. This honestly could have been a lot worse. Tony highlights why this technology isn't practical in the original scene.
Plus $611 million for my little therapeutic experiment.
But Quint can't accept that, so he imagines a laugh track and becomes Mysterio. Personally, I would have just gone to therapy, but to each their own, I guess. Anyway, he's not accepting the responsibilities of his mistakes. Meanwhile, Peter I. Parker is also avoiding his personal responsibilities. Essentially, he saw something that scared him, and now he's not sure if he wants to be Spider-Man anymore. But the issue is, he is Spider-Man. He just doesn't want it. Which is an issue, because if he's not accepting that power, somebody else will. And they're not as likely to have the same respect for that power. In short, you can't always get what you want, and your actions have consequences. Now, where does No Way Home go with this responsibility dissection? Well, actually, it's quite simple. With great power comes great responsibility. Really? There's not a new lesson in this movie. I mean, there is, but it's more about the implementation of the previous lessons. Being a culmination of a trilogy, it's kind of fitting that this movie's just a culmination of those lessons as well. Essentially, this movie explores Peter's responsibility to others, competing against his own personal responsibility in his life. See, due to a mistake Peter makes, a whole bunch of his villains from other universes start appearing in his own. And this being his fault means that he's responsible for them. But how responsible is he? I mean, he's responsible for the reason they're here. Is he responsible for their actions as well? For what happens to them? For their lives? By using these characters, Peter gets the previous lesson's stress tested. This time, instead of shrieking responsibility, he decides to take on accountability for these characters, trying to help them instead of washing his hands of them. And this is a great demonstration of humanity, but there are consequences. There are losses. None of these things would have happened if Peter just sent them back and let them die. But when confronted with making this decision again, he decides to try and save them again. Or at least most of them. This is great because it adds consequences to his decisions. He knows the possible consequences of doing the right thing, yet he still decides to do it. He still decides to be Spider-Man. I would say this makes for an overall great saga, trilogy. I don't know how to describe a select section of MCU movies, because we're able to see how these characters reflect and translate their lessons throughout the saga. Yep, I'm going with saga. But also, I mean, it kind of gives you a real-time reflection of Peter learning his lessons. In Homecoming, he's constantly trying to call Tony and Happy. Then in Far From Home, he's scared of his responsibilities, so he's constantly ducking their calls. Having his relationship with MJ develop naturally throughout the saga, and having the "with great power comes great responsibility" be built up, allowing the messaging to really hit home. Personally, I like it. I like it a lot, and I had fun watching this trilogy and seeing how these characters play out. But hey, that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Did you think this trilogy was good? Did you like the way the messaging was established? Do you think we're ever going to get an Amazing Spider-Man 3? Or at least a second season of Spectacular Spider-Man? But as always, please share, like, and subscribe, because that would mean the literal world to me.